I got to finish in the top 3 to have a shot at least.
I'll see you there. IndyCar coverage is brought to you by the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Get your tickets in the link in the description and save 20%. Welcome to a pretty soggy Nashville Super Speedway for the first day. It's hard to believe the first day of on-track activity here for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Today we were scheduled to have 2 practices as well as qualifications for the NTT IndyCar Series and the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. As of recording this, we've only had the first practice session as well as qualifying in the books. Efforts are underway to dry the track for a late evening session here. With the rain kind of coming in and out, spitting a little bit, we're not quite sure whether this is going to go or not. I would tend to lean, part of why I'm recording this video right now, is that we'll probably not get the second practice in this evening. Well, in the eternal words of Al Borland, not so fast, Tim, we actually did get the final practice session in. It was abbreviated. We had a highline session for about 10 minutes and then a 25-minute final practice. I guess we'll start with the good news first, and that is that it looks like, first of all, this is now certainly I have avenues to get this message across, but I suppose I'll say it for the public too. I've already been advocating quite heavily that this race needs to be at night next year. I mean, how spectacular is it to see Indy cars under the lights at a I guess we'll call it feels like a super speedway. If you're running over 200 miles an hour, it's a super speedway. So this is Nashville Super Speedway, and we're going to call it that. And seeing 200-mile-an-hour Indy cars under the lights, it's absolutely awesome. I think it's the perfect setting for a championship long into the future. So I think we kind of got a preview of next year. So if you liked what you saw here, hopefully we're going to be seeing more of it next year. And the other part of good news, I think, is that it looks like passing is going to be a factor. I think lap traffic is going to be a factor. That's a good thing because, I think we're all, I spoke to quite a few drivers at the bullpen today after qualifying. One driver said he thought it was going to be like Iowa, repave Iowa. But the good news is, from what I've seen, you're not going to have like that side-by-side Texas pack racing, but it looks like you can set guys up on and off of the corners. You're not going to be passing necessarily in the corner, but if you can get a run on somebody out of the corner and get underneath them, or do a better corner than them, you can get underneath them coming off of the corner and make the pass. Colton Herta was one of the guys who was making a ton of passes out there. It also looks like lap traffic is going to be a factor. It looks like there's some about, maybe 8 to 10 cars that are significantly slower than the rest of the field. This is also a good thing from the perspective of racing, because anytime you have lap traffic, it means you have a few extra corners, and sometimes those corners happen on a straightaway, and in this case, I think it's going to produce a good race. So I saw 2 positive things there for sure, looking ahead to tomorrow's race. Now, the big story, and we're about to get to Kyle Kirkwood, who is the pole sitter of today's race, but the big major breaking story is that the number 27 Andretti Global car broke over a bump in turn 3. Now, this is the same bump that caught out Nolan Siegel earlier today, but this one was pretty significant. Kyle Kirkwood hit the bump, and it appeared that one of his suspension members, specifically the right front, failed. That took him straight into the wall. A heavy hit for Kyle Kirkwood, the pole sitter of the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Now, when we talk about backup cars, and we don't know specifically if Kyle Kirkwood is going to go to a backup car, should he go to a backup car, he would not lose his pole position speed or position. But the problem with Kyle Kirkwood and smashing up a very, very strong car is that we don't know how strong that car is going to be now in the race. It is now a complete unknown, and you've got a complete unknown commodity, that car, which will not be shaken down prior to the green flag tomorrow. There is no more practice time scheduled. So the 27 car, starting on the pole with Kyle Kirkwood behind the wheel, is now a complete question mark. So let's go earlier in the day when I was talking about Kyle Kirkwood and introduced his interview segment right after he scored his pole position. The first practice session at 10 o'clock this morning local time was very much focused on qualification setup. Now, there was one accident today, and that was Nolan Siegel very early on in the session. Hit a bump, I guess the bump, between turns 3 and 4. Got the back end of the car sideways. He backed it into the wall. Wasn't able to qualify today, but of course, because there's no bumping at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, he will be allowed to start at the back of the field. The good news in qualifying is a bit of a surprise. You know, it's funny. I didn't post the interview yesterday, but I did speak to Kyle Kirkwood, who is, I guess, if we're talking about specifically the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix here in the state of Tennessee, and more specifically the Nashville area, he's the defending winner. You know, of course, he won on the street course, and we are a long way away from the street course in terms of what this IndyCar race in Nashville looks like now. But and when I spoke to Kyle yesterday, you know, after I said, you know, are we supposed to call you the defending winner, or you know, what are we supposed to call you? You know, he wasn't super confident in, you know, his oval prowess, or at least the team's oval prowess this year. You know, I kind of reminded him, you know, you still seem to always come to the front of these ovals. Well, as it turns out, I know ball a little bit, and Kyle Kirkwood will roll off from the pole position of the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. And after qualifying, I got to speak to him before he was officially awarded with the pole position.
I mean, I told you guys yesterday, I'm going to go into with a blank sheet of paper and figure it out from there. And honestly, we rolled out the trailer extremely well, which I think is important at places like this, where you get no time to get ready. Fortunately, the weather's hold off, and we were able to do a quality effort there, and it's looking like we're going to qualify better than what we would have off of points. So we'll see if it sticks here, though. I don't know if it will. But no, it was really good run. Super happy with the car. Stayed flat, which is the important part for me. And yeah, good run.
How important is this practice session this evening coming up? I mean, it's going to be different than the racing conditions tomorrow, but what do you still need to learn?
I don't think anybody's really ran in traffic or gotten close or seen any passing happen. So that's something that we're going to have to learn very quickly to see how our cars in qualifying kind of react to the race trip. So it's really an unknown. It was an unknown this morning, and it's once again going to be an unknown after here in qualifying. Everybody just kind of focused on qualifying, I think, in practice one.
Another interesting tidbit about Kyle Kirkwood is something that I first saw reported by Jenna Fryer of the Associated Press, and that is that his friend from Florida, Logan Sargent, is here, and as many of us have been aware for quite a while in the IndyCar paddock, I've talked about it on occasions, Logan Sargent is looking for an IndyCar ride, and I've heard tell of a potential test with a big team coming up. Now, do I believe that, you know, the rumored team keeps seeming to come up as Ganassi? Maybe, but the way I look at it, there's not a seat available at Ganassi that he could take, so I'm going to take that rumor at the moment with a grain of salt. But very good for Kyle Kirkwood. I'm curious to see, you know, how he holds up in the race. I mean, I think back to Milwaukee and even Gateway, where the Andretti cars were actually pretty strong, and yet by the end of the day, it was Penske that was the strongest, or Arrow McLaren in the case of the first race in Milwaukee. And as you can hear, the jet dryer is still going across. The good news is that's why we have a mic, folks. It's always good. So, championship. That's the big, important, key factor that we need to be talking about today. And Will Power had a great day in qualifying today. He'll roll off on the outside of the second row, position 4. Joseph Newgarden is starting on the outside of the front row in the second spot, directly in front of him. And of course, you heard it was Friday with Joseph Newgarden. He said he's going to do whatever it takes to get Will Power his championship. So presumably, you know, without manipulating the race or anything, you know, if it does end up happening, you know, I think they're going to try to swap those cars one way or another for Team Penske to try to get a championship. But Will Power, like I said, he had some confidence yesterday, and he didn't get the pole, which is something that disappointed him. But I think Will's still in with a very, very good shot at Nashville. Here's Will's comments after he got out of the car after qualifying.
That's as fast as I could go. I was wide open all the way around. So there's nothing more I could have done. Yeah, you know, got to work through the cycles of the pit stops and see if we can get to the lead and lead laps. And yeah, not a bad place to start strategy-wise, to be honest. It's actually not terrible. You know, you can sit back and you can play off other people when you're there. When you're leading, a little bit tough in that first stint to lead and sort of get to the traffic and all that. So if I didn't have to get the points, I'd be like, yeah, this is about where I want to be. Yeah, being on the inside would have been nice. But yeah, not bad.
With the grid penalty to Palou, though, he's 20 positions behind you on a track that's going to be hard to pass. I mean, what does that factor in for you at all? Does that affect your race at all?
Oh, we won't be thinking about him, to be honest. Like, we have to win the race, unless he crashed out early or something. But ultimately, yeah, he's going to make his way up there, so we know we're going to have to, you know, have the pressure on him by just doing our thing, just do our thing, and it'll fall where it falls. Like, you know, we got ourselves into a position where we're relying on him to have a bad day, and you know, that's the way a championship goes. So,
do you have any kind of a read on what this is going to race like on the very limited practice we've had so far?
No, I don't. I thought that we'd race badly at Gateway and Milwaukee, but they were awesome races. So I really hope this is the same here. Unless I'm leading, then I want it to be absolutely just boring and no one can pass and everyone stays right where they are.
And of course, the championship leader, Alex Palou. Now, Alex had a bad day today. We already knew about the grid penalty yesterday. That's a 9-place grid penalty here on an oval track. So it's a bigger penalty if you take if you have to replace an engine and take an engine penalty on an oval versus a road or street course. Alex didn't do himself any favors today. He qualified 15th, and with a 9-place grid penalty, that gets us to a 24th starting position for Alex Palou. So obviously, he wasn't in a great mood when we talked to him after qualifying, but he still expects to be up front by the end of the race.
We just didn't have the balance right like this morning. This morning we were able to be flat, like you have to be like top 10 at least, even top 12. And I couldn't, so yeah. Lap 1 wasn't great, and it just started going downhill from there.
It's a very difficult position to be in because now it's, you know, everything we hear, and we also heard this at Gateway in Milwaukee, so it could be complete, you know, nonsense, but looks like it's going to be hard to pass. Starting that far in the back and knowing that Will's starting at the front and we know he can get to the front, is there any kind of a sense of urgency that you need to get through the field early, or are you going to kind of take a conservative approach starting back there?
I don't think I can take a very conservative approach starting 24.
Sure.
Yeah, we need to move forward, man. It's different when you are 9th, 8th, and maybe there you can take it easy, get 60 laps going on, and then decide from there. But from P24, I think I need to start moving pretty fast.
You better do that highline practice then.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
And so, the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. You know, I've been promoting this race on the channel, and you know, I'm going to say it tomorrow too. But thanks to Scott and Eric and all the people, Dave, all the folks at Big Machine who made this possible. It's been really an honor to represent them, and the fruits of everyone's labor associated with this race is going to come to fruition tomorrow. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think it is going to be a good show. If for nothing else, you've got the perfect championship scenario. You've got Will Power starting at the front and Alex Palou starting at the back. You put Alex Palou in a position where he has to chase, and of course, Will Power was already in a position where he's going to be going broke for the win. So from my perspective, even if the race isn't on the level of Milwaukee or Gateway, I think you're still going to have intrigue throughout the race because we're going to be tracking the title battle. And I think that's going to add a lot of excitement and fun to this thing. You know, knock on wood, I think the weather's going to hold out tomorrow. I think we're going to get the race in, and I think once we do, it's going to be a lot of fun. Do I think Will Power can pull off a miracle, win the race and the championship? I think it's possible. I think Alex Palou is going to have to be very, very careful to stay out of trouble. Starting back in 24th position, anything can happen. He's had the golden horseshoe all year long, but could the luck run out for Alex Palou in his run to his 3rd championship? Will Power also going for his 3rd championship. It's going to be a very, very exciting day tomorrow here in Nashville for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Thank you guys so much for watching. I want to hear your predictions of what will happen, both for the winner of the race and for the winner of the championship down in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you after the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix.